phases of testing. So as any part of the crucial part of any mobile app development process is the testing phase. So the testing phase is made up of different steps, which endeavors to measure the quality of developed application. So normally this testing phase provide step-to-step guide to the complete mobile application development testing process. So in testing phases, we want to understand the test scope. When I talk about the scope, this is first important step of testing process, which you define parameters, features, and functionalities that you are going to test. You need to just to see or understand the extent of testing. That's why we talk about scoping in terms of extent of testing. So once the scope of testing is narrowed down, then it can be issued to determine which test methods to be deployed or used in that regard. So whether the mobile application requires only functional testing, performance testing, or security testing, as we mentioned before. So normally it requires a mix of various testing methods in any mobile application. So parameters to consider when defining the scope of testing include the type of app, whether it is native or hybrid, as we had explained. Is the app interacting with other applications? Those are the things that you need to consider in constructing a test scope so that you know the extent of testing, front-end packet testing or both, you know. There is also planning, which you know that before you do any testing or any endeavor, even before you build an application, you need to categorize or break down the entire process into sections. So you normally create a plan of action. So most important thing is you need to create test cases and scripts in case of an automated testing. So normally you need to know what you need to identify a testing method, write and choose the test cases, choose whether testing is done in-house or manually or use of any software, select the testers, you know, you're just doing the overall plan of testing in that section. Then execution. After defining the test scope and plan, you have done scoping and you've known the extent of testing. You have also put in planning and you've known that these are the things that you need to test and the sections. Now, it is an opportunity for you to execute the testing process now. So execution phase is carried out normally considering the scope and testing methodologies. So testing execution focuses on specification of device, platform, or operating system on which application is to be tested. Consideration in execution is consider various testing methodology depending on scope and priority. Also identify areas of improvement and resetting the testing goals. Sending the test results periodically in order to deploy changes to the app. If you realize that in one section of the application, it is not behaving as expected, then you need to give feedback so that we do application improvement. You move it again to developers. So that is it. Then we have tracking. So we say that once the process is executed or when the process of testing has been done, now time for analyzing and logging in the results and errors. You know, you log, you give us statistics of the results and errors. So when you track the results of testing, the first you need to do is prioritize the results based on severity and need for the immediate corrective actions so that those sections of device which does not have an opportunity to wait, those things which should be improved immediately should be done. That is why we say that consider testing with consider testing considering also severity of the particular need. You see. So the major factors important in tracking testing is decision or prioritization of defects. Because as soon as I've logged in the errors, I've known which error should be addressed immediately or which challenges should be addressed or should be sent straight to developers. Then as out of that tracking test, I can do prioritization of defect. Which one should we do it immediately? Which one is of high severity, which we cannot wait? And then again, with tracking, you can be able to be ensured on purposes of time. schedule time out of that logging of defects, you can be able to estimate the time that is required for correction. That's what we term correction time. And even choice of reliable testing, tracking and testing results. So we need to know which partner or which organization can be able to do, or which organization you can depend on in terms of tracking the testing results. For example, for commercial applications. Then the last bit of it is review. So once the test run is completed and all defects are either corrected or logged, then it is time for review process. And we say that review, you need to create summarized report of entire testing process and review it in order to get better understanding of errors and behavior of mobile applications. So you normally, in review, you need to take in consideration details of the device, the platform in terms of operating system, and versions on which the mobile applications was tested. So you need to, a mobile application has different versions, or the operating system platforms. You will be able to see these ones. Complete summary of all tests conducted along with results. So, and many other things. That is what we do in review. The last bit of it is now deployment and maintenance. Deployment and maintenance. As we continue, I want us to talk about deployment and maintenance. So as the name suggests, once you build and test, you've built it and you have tested the mobile application, it is now an opportunity to deploy it and maintain it for further development. So normally mobile app deployment entails deploying mobile application. So, and there are a lot of tests required or steps required to be taken into consideration when deploying mobile applications. So you must make sure it passes all deployment tests. That is, if you write an end-to-end unit and integration testing, make sure to check the output or workflow in that regard. Rebuild your application. There is also, that is on considering the code, developers use ProGuard normally, which sometimes remove code leading to app crash. So make sure you don't shrink the code at the cost of usability. So you don't minimize the code or use short code so that, of course, it reduces development time, but it can compromise usability. So you are considering in mobile application that you own a server, then you set your CI flow using check-ins, Bitrise, Travis, and even pipelines. You later on understand those ones. It is also essential you perform static code analysis. There are areas of concern on that, and many you will be able to read on those. So we have best practices in mobile app development, like you need to monitor performance. You need to keep your user interface updated. Take note of those ones. Once you install the application, you should work on minimizing uninstallations, because I don't want people to have bad experience in my application. If someone realized that this app has not been able to provide what is deemed to provide, people will normally uninstall those applications. So we don't want a situation that because of user experiences or because of competition from better applications, or your user doesn't have, or the application does not have over maximum benefits to a user, then users will uninstall. So we normally say the best practices for long-term app development is to monitor performance. So you should be able to keep an eye on loading types. If there are any lags, if there are any response issues, you should be able to consider that so that people can have, or users can have, good experience. So first you monitor performance, keep your user interface updated. And that is one way of ensuring your mobile application aligns with customers' needs. Considering the trends which are ongoing, habits of users, and need for constant updating is very essential for people to interact with new interfaces. You realize that people always want to see new things. You've seen Facebook the other day is moving from Facebook to Meta. Meta sijui to Facebook, I don't understand. So the reason is so that users want to see something new. But essentially it is the same thing, but you want to have a new user experience so that you are able to counter competition again from competing apps. So you need to keep your user updated. Thirdly, ensure that your app supports the latest software. Fourth, fixing bugs can win customers. And the last one is regularly add new features. I think I'm through with that particular section. So